be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents round the tree. Christmas Eve.
And it is holiday time, and this is our holiday show and gift guide. We are busy as can be. Tim, we are up to our gills in swag and screeners to watch. We are voting for LAFCA and the Critics' Choice Awards. Critics' Choice Awards mercifully later than LAFCA. LAFCA, we got a week left. Are you behind?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm fully and completely behind. So, and you know, I have all kind of issues, but yeah, way behind. LAFCA, of course, in person. Someplace fancy this year, I can't remember where. And then, but mercifully, CCA's more or less an online sort of situation.
Yeah, that's thank goodness.
And it requires almost no interaction with other human beings.
Yeah, you know,
which is kind of great.
I will say this. So there's a Critics' Choice kind of administrative body that is forming, and I joined that just to kind of, you know, get my bearings. And I'm very much a backbencher. I just kind of join these Saturday morning meetings every few weeks and listen to everybody kind of kvetch and go back and forth. And yeah, it's interesting. It's very different from LAFCA. Because you have people who are not necessarily film critics, they're film broadcast journalists. They're not all in LA. Some of them are in St. Louis and in Minneapolis and in, you know, Flagstaff. And so they come from places that are outside of Los Angeles. And it's always very refreshing to me to hear those people kind of raise their hands and go, yeah, you know, we don't get all the perks you guys get. So give us some, you know, give us some props over here. We're still waiting on that screening. Like, nice to hear everybody talk about, oh, we just saw that, but, you know, our screening isn't until next week. And it's, you know, so you forget that when you get outside the bubble, there are a lot of people out there who they're representing different constituencies. And I appreciate that. That's
Back when I worked the junket circuit real big. And yeah, I mean, literally every Saturday, every Sunday. Every other Saturday or Sunday, I literally flew from LA to New York to work to do the junkets in New York, and then the opposite weekend I did all the LA junkets, and then you would have these people who would come in from Minnesota and Detroit and you know, and it was a real sort of check for myself. I was like, you know, I should really be happy that I am where I am and I do what I do because, you know, one of those kind of things, but. Yes, overworked, nevertheless. Yes, still overworked. Don't care. Super duper overworked.
Well, in the meantime, just some plugs. By all means, come visit us at DigiGods.com or at scpr.org. That's where you will find Film Week, which Tim and I do regularly. Also, come and take a look at my Substack at HollywoodHeretic.substack.com. You can email us at gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com. Always like to hear from listeners. You can go to our Facebook pages, Cinegods or DigiGods. DigiGods is you have to join. You got to ask to be accepted to join the DigiGods conversation. But Cinegods, anybody can like the page and follow the podcast and all the other posts. Going to try to do a lot more of that stuff in the coming year once we get out from under our awards season burden.
Did we get ourselves over on Instagram and Threads yet? Did that happen?
Dude, I don't know. You know, you and I and Mark and Ray, we're going to have to kind of sit down and just say, where do we need to be? Where can we afford to be with our time and our commitments? Because, you know, there's no point in sort of having a presence on Instagram. Truly, I have seen some celebrity Instagram pages where I go, you will see, oh, you know, such and such a celebrity, they got an Instagram page. You go, never been updated. Like not even a single post. And it's theirs. It'll be like, you know,
I have one. I forget it's there.
The real Tom Cruise or whatever. and it's still, you're still waiting for a first post. You know, so you that's the thing. You don't want to go to a space where you're not going to regularly participate and update, and you kind of want to live life too. You gotta have have a life out there.
And the kind of content, like I'm not a TikToker. I mean, I wouldn't do TikTok for a whole bunch of other reasons. That you can also my love of the free world, but but also I'm not a TikToker.
Oh yes. Well, let's not to wreck the holiday mood, but let's just we got a lot of people kicked off in the few weeks since we did this last. How was your Thanksgiving, and how's Mom, by the way?
Well, absolutely lovely, particularly Thanksgiving, because I guess I had just been home for a whole bunch of things. I had to move my mom, a whole thing. So Mom's doing great, loving her new place. I'm loving her new place because it's a much more conducive to an 81 2-year-old person, and it came out of nowhere, but it's great. So Mom's fine.
Awesome.
How did you and the girls get along over the holidays?
We fed 9 people. It was going to be 11, but 2 dropped out at the last minute, which is fine. We had plenty of food, so it was good. Fed 9 people, mostly family, but had some orphans who came and joined, and it was very, very nice. It was a good crowd. And that was the most people we fed in a long time.
Wow.
And my nephew, who was not with us, he was elsewhere, but one of my nephews, he exposed me to the spatchnik turkey, what's it called? Hold on.
The one with the spatchcock.
Spatchcock. You've heard of this?
Oh yeah, you basically spread it out.
You splay it out like you butterfly it, and it cooks in like a fraction of the time, and it's juicy, and it's a whole deal. It's a thing.
Yeah,
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that next year, I think.
Anything's better than frying a turkey. Do not fry a turkey. Fried turkey is great, but you have to kill several children and burn down a house to make one. So, to my mind, it's not worth it. I don't think, but other people.
I see that deep fried turkey thing, and my first thought goes to, first of all, I don't know anyone who actually owns a deep fryer. But second of all, if you got like a 12-pound turkey, how big is your deep fryer?
Oh yeah, I've seen them. I've seen them. It's a thing.
I mean, oh my gosh! And how much oil? What? Are you trying to kill people? What's going on?
I'm telling you, I've never seen a deep fried turkey that didn't result in some sort of a fire event. I'm not even exaggerating now. Maybe the whole house didn't burn down, but there was a deep frying a turkey will result in some sort of a fire event that happens every time.
Oh gosh. Well, let's go through all the people we lost.
Yeah.
Starting with Mitzi Gaynor at 93. A lot of people didn't realize Mitzi was still around. One of the legends of Hollywood movie musicals. Mitzi, I just adore Mitzi. Love just about every performance she ever gave. I mean, good long life, 93. But go watch yourself some Mitzi Gaynor on occasion.
I'm telling you, Francesca was her name, and she just sparkled. She just her all the way through her entire life, by the way, not just when she was young. And we forget Mitzi could dance, Mitzi could act, but Mitzi could dance. Mitzi could sing. She was one of those. We call them triple threats now, but it occurs to me that back in the day, in a certain day in Mitzi's day, you kind of had to be a triple threat just to get a job.
Right.
That was a given. This thing that we think is sort of astounding now. Oh, look, they can sing and dance. I'm sorry, you had to come off the farm singing and dancing. In Mitzi's day, and she could do it all.
That's right. We lost Linda Obst at 74. I interviewed Linda after her last Sleepless in Hollywood book, which I think is still an outstanding book. Could have used a little bit of editing, but still a great book about everything that's wrong in Hollywood, and it's been quite prophetic. So Linda Obst, tremendous producer, 74, far too young, but she is survived by her son, who is an agent manager, and her presence is still with us, and her books are immortal. 67 years old for Michael Newman. For those who don't remember, he played Booney on Baywatch. And I actually interviewed Michael for he died. I think it was Parkinson's that got him, but it's just so tragic because he was such a big, strapping guy.
Yes, physically, just
physically.
Yeah.
And I interviewed him for Entertainment Today, dude. When we
Oh,
were at
really?
Entertainment
Way back?
Today,
Yeah.
I did. They wanted to get him some PR because everybody else on Baywatch was getting PR, and he was and so I went down because I don't live too far from where they were shooting it at the time, so I went down to the beach to the set, hung out for about half the day, and talked to him and interviewed him there. And he was a real life first responder. He was a trained paramedic, a serving fireman in the LA County Fire Department, and a legit lifeguard. So I mean, he was all of those things.
Yeah.
And I remember asking him, I said, are you ever going to throw all that in? I mean, you're an actor now. And he says, no. This will come to an end. This will come to an end someday, and you still gotta have a real job. And I thought, wow, you are grounded. Because most people I know would be like, screw all the rest of that stuff. I'm a movie star now. I'm a TV star, and he didn't. He didn't. He did both of those things, and of course, the show moved to Hawaii. He did not, and he went back to doing all that. And my favorite part of this story was that some years later, because I live in an area where there are brush fires, I've had to evacuate more than my share of times. The fire department comes and inspects your brush clearance. And one year, who do you think showed up on my front door inspecting for brush clearance?
Michael Newman.
It was the greatest catch-up moment. I was like, dude, do you remember me? I interviewed you on the beach 12 years ago. And he was like, yeah, wow, how you doing? It was a good moment. It was a good moment. So, but it was so profound to see that he was doing the job. He was just a working class guy and never let the TV thing go to his head. It was great.
Yeah, but only in Hollywood. Only in Hollywood can you be a star on a television show for a few seasons and still go back to your day job.
That's it. We also lost a couple of great athletes. I just want to give them a shout out. Fernando Valenzuela, who was an ace pitcher for the Dodgers, died too young. And the great NBA center Dikembe Mutombo, recognizable with that gravelly voice of his. You always knew it. Those after game interviews with Dikembe were it was my favorite thing because I'd love to hear him say like, I was going to get good position in the paint, but when I go up for the dunk, it was that gravelly voice. There was nothing like it. He was just such a great personality.
Dikembe was in Juwanna Mann. I had a few friends in Juwanna Mann way back in 2099, 2000, something like that. So Dikembe's in that movie. So legit. And then he's in Uncle Drew from a couple of years ago. He's in that. And he is hysterical in Uncle Drew. Just like really steals scenes in that movie. And he has a few moments in Coming to America too.
And the beautiful thing about Dikembe Mutombo, let me tell you, this is a guy who originally had a career path where he wanted to be a doctor because he came from a very poor part of Africa and he wanted to bring health care to the areas where he grew up. And when he became an NBA star, people thought, people interview him like, oh, well, too bad about those doctor dreams. And he said, no. I just financed the building of a hospital. Like he didn't become a doctor, but he still was committed to that. And he used his wealth and his fame to be able to endow and build hospitals. And that to me is an extraordinary human being. He never let go. He never let the fame kind of obscure what he felt was his greater obligations, and never forgot where he came from. So quality human being, Dikembe Mutombo. We also lost the voice of the Love Boat, Jack Jones. So you gotta just love Jack. Wonderful voice, memorable crooner. We lost the great Terry Garr. Who struggled with health problems for so long, but Terry's so memorable, not just in a classic Star Trek episode, and who had little cameos, and like I think Viva Las Vegas, she's one of the dancers or something, but came out of the 60s and started getting guest spots in the 70s, shows up, next thing you know, in Close Encounters as Richard Dreyfuss's wife. She's so good. And then in Tootsie and, Young Frankenstein.
Tootsie from those boys.
And she steals Young Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein, roll in the hay, roll. She's just so wonderful in all of those performances. So we loved Terry Garr. What else can we say about Quincy Jones? Maybe the most prestigious music career of all time.
A music career that bled over into the movies, in terms of soundtracks and producing and everything, magazines, you name it. Yes, all of that. This sort of teenage savant on the trumpet. People forget that Quincy played the trumpet like Wynton Marsalis.
Yeah.
When he was 16 years old. But the talent. So yeah, Quincy Jones, just outstanding, fantastic.
And I've been revisiting that interview where he talks about fighting with Michael on some of those tracks where Michael says, "No, you got to take the violins out. It's killing my groove," and Quincy said, "No, the violins stay. They're going to make the song." And Quincy was right.
Of course,
right. The genius of Quincy Jones is not just as a songwriter. It is as a songwriter and an arranger and a composer and a musician and a producer and everything that you can do in the music industry. He did. He wrote pop. He wrote classical. He scored The Color Purple, for crying out loud. If you listen to the score for The Color Purple, it is right up there with John Williams level stuff. And then listen to his themes for TV shows like Ironside. And you realize this was a man who mastered everything. He mastered pop. He mastered funk. He mastered jazz. He mastered classical. He did it all. And I don't know that we'll ever have another musical giant like Quincy Jones. The guy just.
I have to tell my talking with Quincy Jones. We met Quincy a few times. At one time, Quincy was a jazz guy. If you know jazz guys, you hang around with jazz guys. Jazz guys, they cuss a lot. they cuss a lot. I walk into this studio. I sit down with Quincy. Quincy looked at me and he said, "You little Spike Lee looking motherfucker, ain't you?" He just pointed at you, little Spike Lee looking motherfucker. I'm like, yeah, it's true. Yeah. And I thought I was so honored for Quincy Jones to hit me with that. That made me so happy. So love me some Quincy Jones.
Just a tremendous figure. What a legacy. And then Tony Todd was. That I did not see coming. That was that's a premature death. Really, I thought had a lot of great performances and some interesting late life stuff still in him that we're deprived of. So that's too bad. That was
Tony had that great voice and that presence, a certain sort of gravitas that he lent to that 1990 whatever it was 2 or whatever Candyman.
Yep.
That really elevated. It was one of the first sort of elevated horror films. That sort of notion of the elevated horror film that was on the weight of Tony Todd on his voice. Tony happened to interview him 1,000 years ago, around 1990, for a remake of Night of the Living Dead. He played the guy in Night of the Living Dead. And this is a really, really, and the stature of this remake has grown and grown and grown over the last 35 years. So now they sort of run them together all the time. The original George Romero Night of the Living Dead and Tony Todd's Night of the Living Dead. Just really, really strong stuff from 1990. But Tony, and this is where, I kind of knew him from when I was hanging around the set. Deep Space Nine, Tony played Kern, Worf's brother, on Deep Space Nine. So Tony was a Klingon. Sherm was a Klingon on a couple of those episodes too. Our homie Sherm, and he was just great. Those episodes that centered around Kern and Worf and and all that kind of stuff are absolutely operatic. Again, it was one of those things where he just sort of like elevated it all, so that it's now suddenly it's Hamlet, it's Macbeth. It was just really, really, really good. Some actors could do that, and Tony Todd was definitely one of them.
Yeah, just really a tremendous gravitas, and that's a loss. Let's talk about the famous game show host Chuck Woolery, who really, that I didn't see coming either. Chuck Woolery, for those who may not. He hasn't hosted game shows in quite a while, but Chuck Woolery was one of those guys who changed the whole nature of game show hosting. Chuck Woolery was not your typical game show host. Chuck Woolery was a guy who felt like your buddy. You weren't supposed to feel like Bob Barker or any of these other guys were your buddy. You were supposed to. They were there for the audience. They were supposed to bring a larger than life kind of used car salesman sensibility to the moment. And Chuck Woolery was just the guy, and he reacted to you, and he laughed, and he had a more humane reaction as a game show host than most of them normally would, and in particular for the show Love Connection. Now, this used to be an evening thing. It wasn't just, for the old folks, the evening game shows Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. It used to be a little more like an hour that was a little more risque. It was the dating game and Love Connection. And when you're a teenager, like I think we were at the time, that was quite entertaining in the afternoons and early evenings. Love Connection, as it happens, I know someone who was on Love Connection at one point in the 80s. And man, did Woolery handle that situation with pure comedic aplomb. It was amazing. It showed you what a game show host could do when he had completely deranged people who were not in any way compatible on this show. He just took it like Johnny Carson of the Game Show Network, and he just he took that show over. And the one-liners he comes up with, it's all spontaneous. It's not written for him. It's very good stuff. Chuck Woolery, another real loss, tremendous entertainer. We also just this last week, Earl Holliman. Let's talk about Earl Holliman for a second.
The policeman on Policewoman. Loved Earl Holliman. Loved Earl Holliman on that show. The thing that I loved about Earl, particularly on that show, is that he never played the character. Never played down to Pepper.
Right.
He treated Pepper. Pepper was a cop. He had her back all the time. He didn't undermine her. He was her boss, but he was always. And I love that take on that character on that show, because on a lot of shows, it was the other way around. But Earl didn't play it that way.
That's true.
He knew that she could do things that they couldn't do, but he always had her back. Love that about Earl Holliman, the policeman on Police One.
Tell us about Jerry Taylor. This is somebody who was behind the scenes, behind the camera. But Tim, you have very articulately discussed the importance of Jerry Taylor in the world of Trek.
The Trek world would be diminished for a whole lot of reasons if it weren't for Jerry Taylor, a woman who a lot of people didn't know were a woman. She kind of came in on the heels of DC Fontana, which came in with that first group of Star Trek writers, with Gene, and so she came in with DC, and then DC. Gene had told DC, just do the DC, don't tell anybody, just do the D and the C. If they don't know, you'll fare better, because Gene was that kind. He understood the world that these women were having to deal with, and Jerry Taylor learned from DC to just sort of let that float. For years, I thought Jerry Taylor was a dude. As I was watching those credits go by, I'm like, man, that Jerry Taylor sure can white. Jerry Taylor, a wonderful woman, an excellent writer and producer of Star Trek, particularly Deep Space Nine, wrote and conceived several of those that are just extraordinary. And we lost Jerry back in October, actually, but I just forgot to mention it. But yeah, she's one of those trailblazing women who have shaped the canon of Star Trek, and sometimes we boys forget some girls had a whole lot to do with that.
And our good friend David Weishart, who has a great new Substack called Character Secrets, by the way. If you're a writer, go check out Character Secrets. David Weishart actually pitched an episode to Jerry Taylor back in the 80s, and it's a great story too. Learn what you don't do in a pitch too. It's very very humbling to hear David share that story. So I hope he puts that on his Substack at some point. And then winding down here to the end. Jim Abrahams, the A in Zaz has gone, so the Zucker brothers are now left without the meat of their sandwich. Jim Abrahams was the third wheel in that amazing Zucker team that gave us Kentucky Fried Movie and the Airplane movies and the Naked Gun films, and he wound up being the most prolific director of any of them, actually. He went on to do a lot of stuff solo, and he was just Mafia was I think the last one that he did by himself, but really just a tremendous comedy talent, and I'm sorry to see him go.
Yeah, he was great. I think we did a panel, if I'm not mistaken, with those guys for Film Week, or maybe I did that, but I don't know. Were you on that panel with the Airplane guys?
I was not. No, I wasn't.
Yeah, it was a great. It was a great panel, and it was a great chat. And he was responsible for some of the more risque jokes in particularly in that first airplane movie. Just a really
Love
really
it.
funny guy. It remembered me. And I could not believe this. 1,000 years ago again. Everything for me in this town was 1,000 years ago. I worked on a film called Welcome Back, Roxy Carmichael. It was one of I might have been his first solo directing thing. And I was working for ITC. Remember ITC?
I
ITC was
do.
the company that
Yes.
produced that film. It was a Winona Ryder movie, little cute Winona Ryder movie. And he remembered me. From 30 whatever it was years ago, working on that film. He's like, oh, I remember you. He's like, you were fat, you had a beard. And I'm like, yes, that was me. I lost 40 pounds, shaved a beard. He's like, I remember. I'm like, dude, you are good.
See, I love that.
Midwest guys, they do that. We can't help it.
I love it. I love that. I love that. Well, so let's take a dive into all of our great stuff that we're recommending for the holidays. Yeah. Speaking of ITC, giving us a good little transition there, and we are going to have an interview at some point in the next few weeks with the main creative figure here. The Moonbase Alpha Technical Operations Manual for all fans of Space 1999 is amazing. This is the post-breakaway revised edition. This is such an unbelievably cool thing. It comes from ITV Studios in the UK. You got to go online and order it directly from ITV Studios. But I'll tell you, it is amazing. And all the hard work here is courtesy of Chris Thompson, who works for Anderson Entertainment. And Chris Thompson is somebody we're going to be talking to get his insights onto the enduring legacy of Space 1999. So look for that in a few weeks. But this is just an absolutely wonderful book. I'm a technical manual groupie. Like, I got every Star Trek technical manual ever published. Not because I need them, just because I like having them. But no, this is wonderful, and it really is the perfect companion to any Space 1999 fans' already burgeoning collection. I love that it has, like, I'm looking here right now at the Eagle layout and how the command module and the main viewports work, and I never knew that it was called a hot bottle fusion engine array. That's sweet. But no, it really explains like why the Eagle is designed the way that it is. It's not designed just so that it looks like a bird. No, there's actual practical reasons for it, and they get into all of the different module variants here. I love this. There's like a laboratory module. There's a rescue module. That centerpiece of the Eagle you can drop out and replace with all kinds of other stuff. So it's there's a lot of practicality to it. A pallet module for hauling stuff around.
Jerry precedes Gene Roddenberry. He was older than Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
But he was one of the first sort of creators of this sort of fiction who wanted to consider actual scientific sort of issues around things like that. So was it speculative? Yes, extremely speculative. They solve most problems by putting rockets on some sort of a launch device and shooting it off the end. But he was one of the first who did that. He's like, look, what would the science call for in order to make this space station work, in order to make a moon base viable, et cetera, et cetera. So he was one of those guys.
And what they have done with this book is just tremendous. It is wonderful. If you are already a Space 1999 fan, you'll be an even happier one afterwards. If you're not a Space 1999 fan and you haven't seen the show, this book will win you over. You don't even need to watch any of the show. It'll just win you over. So that is the Space 1999 Moonbase Alpha Technical Operations Manual, courtesy of Chris Thompson, who was one of the writers and illustrators. Did it with Andrew Clements, but this is, Chris Thompson is the guy. We're gonna be grabbing him and talking a lot of Space 1999 with him in the next few weeks. So look for that. Look for that. Also on the book front, a few more to make quick mention of here. We have a complicated passion: the life and work of Agnès Varda by Carrie Rickey. Which is an absolutely terrific look at the life of one of the great all-time French filmmakers whom we've met a number of times at our LAFCA events. She was she was a teacher at USC. She was a constant presence in Los Angeles and just a great lady, and made some just so many unusual and fascinating movies. And of course, was married to Jacques Demy, so she, a great filmmaker married to another great filmmaker, which is also part of the complicated life. But anyway, A Complicated Passion: The Life and Work of Agnes Varda.
Beautiful.
We've also got Wes D. Gehring's Kinds of American Film Comedy, 6 core genres and their literary roots. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing for people who want to get into comedy writing. It breaks down in very, very classic, methodical terms the classic archetypes of American comedy writing, especially screwball comedy, and which is a kind of American farce, the way that they argue it here. It gets into romantic comedy, and it has examples from all these classic movies. It's really, really a great, great scholarly breakdown. And then lastly, the amazing Pandora's Box, How Guts, Guile, and Greed Upended TV by Peter Biskind. Peter Biskind, one of the great chroniclers of Hollywood history that we have, previously wrote Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, which was, the great chronicle of the 1970s and how everything changed with a whole new generation of filmmakers. And he wrote Down in Dirty Pictures as well. So he has given us some of the most incisive deconstruction of our particular moment in cinema and in television. And Pandora's Box is amazing because it puts us right into the present day with streaming and linear television and the crisis of content. Is it too much? Is it too little? What's the impact on movies? Is the tail wagging the dog or the dog wagging the tail? Is it movies or streaming? All of this stuff gets into the guts of it, and it will really open your eyes, especially as to Netflix. It sort of ends with a question mark too. The conclusion to this book is not yet written, so it is. That's just those books alone will make somebody in your circle happy. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, let's start off on the disc side by hitting some holiday titles. And what really is more appropriate for a Christmas show than to start off by talking about the 40th anniversary edition 4K Ultra HD release of Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Really? 40? Wow.
Yeah, it's been 40 years. It's which is greatest tagline. There's 2 taglines actually on the cover here. I don't know which one they used when the movie was released, but I think it's hilarious. So they obviously figured, well, we got to use them both. So the first one is you've made it through Halloween. Now try and survive Christmas.
Yeah,
and it's a picture of Santa, down the chimney with one arm holding an axe still sticking out the top of the chimney. And the other tagline is, he knows when you've been naughty. So, this is one of those Christmas slasher films. There are a few of them. Silent Night, Deadly Night is arguably one of the most offensive of them. Probably in a pretty good way, I guess. But it all starts. It's almost campy in hindsight, to be honest. Watching this
sure.
again.
Yeah, you got the great Leanne Quigley in this, the first really great
Scream Queen. Yeah,
there. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Directed by Charles E. Sellier Jr., who I don't think ever made another movie.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I'm not sure.
The premise is you've got to. It sort of tries to take the whole concept of Halloween and Friday the 13th and import it into Christmas about this little kid who, his parents were murdered on Christmas Eve, and then he had an issue with some nuns. So now he's basically become the Michael Myers of Christmas, and he's gonna put on a Santa suit and absolutely go nuts. Yes, it's Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's 4K. I don't know if you need it in 4K, but clearly somebody does. On the list of all the 8,000 Christmas-themed movies that now show up on Lifetime and Hallmark and every other thing, is just more. It's just too much. A Bluegrass Christmas is not bad. It's actually kind of sweet. This stars Amanda Jordan and David Pennard, and it's just one of those sweet kind of country horse riding, aimed at people in Oklahoma and Kentucky kind of Christmas stories. But these are people who have made a ton of Christmas movies already.
Yeah.
Everyone in
There's
here
a
has
formula, baby. There's a formula, and
it is a formula.
They've got not just Hallmark. These companies, they have these things sort of wrapped up, and it's a formula that works because it's a formula that works.
It is, and the Scrooge in this story is grumpy grandpa, but he's not grumpy for long. We also have A Sudden Case of Christmas with Danny DeVito and Andy McDowell, who's not afraid to own the gray hair now, and that's sweet. Oh, this is Danny DeVito. Really, kind of he really gets off on this. He's a guy. He plays a guy named Lawrence Armanetti, and he runs a hotel in Italy where he brings his family over for Christmas every year. And needless to say, bringing the family over winds up not going quite so well this year. But you know what? It all wraps up in a wonderful, heartwarming finale. And Danny DeVito has so much fun with it.
Well, you know what? I'm looking at the trailer here, and this is definitely a location shoot. They went to Italy.
Yep, they did.
They're actually
sure
there.
Did.
And I'm thinking Danny's like, you say we're going to Italy for this thing. Okay, let's do it.
Why
and
not?
They got themselves a cute little Christmas movie. You got to love it. Yeah.
And then lastly here, the 4K Ultra HD debut complete with the digital code for Vudu or Fandango Plus, whatever they're calling it now, of the classic Irving Berlin's White Christmas. Its 70th anniversary, first time on 4K. Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Rosemary, I am George Clooney's aunt Clooney, and Vera Allen. Still an absolute classic. I remember watching this movie as a kid. It's colorful, it's touching, it's got all the great Irving Berlin songs, and Rosemary Clooney is just absolutely terrific. She's just wonderful, fantastic. George Clooney's aunt does the family proud. Got a ton of extras in here. There's a sing along and featurettes. There's a 1954 UNICEF documentary with Danny Kaye. It's just it is a blast of Christmas nostalgia. You're not going to be able to get enough. It's just absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And then there's also a really interesting little oddity here called Blue Christmas. This is like this is from VCI by way of MVD Visual, and it is region free. Anybody can grab this. You can play it in any region whatsoever. This is like a Christmas noir. Talk about Christmas slasher films. No, put that aside. This is a Christmas noir, and it is, I guess, formally from the creator of The Road to Perdition, and it's like it's all it verges on parody at times. Okay, it almost feels like they're really trying to riff on everything Sam Spade and Raymond Chandler and all that stuff. But at a certain point, it really does kind of settle in to this whole gumshoe private eye thing, and you just kind of buy it. You just kind of buy the fact that you're watching a Christmas noir, and it's done in that whole 1940s style. It takes place in Chicago in 1942, and it's got the femme fatale and all the nasty, ugly people, and then at a certain point you begin to realize, oh, I'm watching A Christmas Carol done as a noir, aren't I?
This is what we have.
And then you realize Christmas Carol is a noir.
Yeah, it very much. Yeah,
right.
I'm with you on that one, bro.
See, and that's what I thought was interesting. You're like, because now it's made me reevaluate a lot of Dickens. I'm like, Dickens was sort of like the original. He was the original Raymond Chandler in some respects. He kind of was. He was writing noir for his day.
I can see. I can walk right through that with you.
Oliver Twist is noir, man.
Yeah.
Great Expectations is noir. It's weird, but that's like a sudden dawning for me. I hadn't thought of that before. So anyway, give that a look if you're so inclined. It's very specialized, but Blue Christmas, very clever. I kind of appreciated what it was doing. All right, we've got 4Ks, we've got Criterions, we've got box sets, we got television. What should we launch it?
Let's bump up to the 4Ks.
Oh yeah,
because there are a few in there. I happen to be listening. I see Interstellar in there. It's a thing that popped out.
Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful set.
And I happen to be listening to something Neil deGrasse Tyson or something like that, and he was chit chatting with Kip Thorne, who, of course, was the scientific advisor for Interstellar, and was really interesting conversation as Kip was really explaining that he was actually him and Linda Obst, if I'm not mistaken, the creators of that original story. And Chris Nolan came and his brother came to him and they sort of like, and then they took it and turned it into this whole other thing. But all the science, he was just talking about all the science in Interstellar, and it was kind of neat to listen to Kip explain how all of those things that always bugged me personally about Interstellar. I'm talking about this sort of scientific internecine scientific narrative now. I'm like, oh, you can't do that. And Kip explained why I was wrong. And the things that people jump on all the science and all these things. He explains, no, this is exactly why you people are all wrong. Now, you had to read the book in order to get all of that. It may not all be in the movie, but it's really, really kind of cool. So anyway, what's that tonight? That's looking extraordinary.
This is a tremendous set. Oh, more than 3 hours of special features, old and new, including a look back at Interstellar. It's really just an absolutely great documentary. I can't believe this. This is the 10-year anniversary. I can't believe it's been 10 years, dude. That just freaks me out. But this is the 10-year anniversary release. It is a nice, big, old, kind of slim boxed set. It's got posters and souvenir stickers and a little booklet and all kinds of just great stuff in it. I mean, it really is a nice collector's set. It's really, really terrific. But ultimately, you know what? This movie has some of the best audio you will ever going to hear on a 4K. It's just a great, great mix. It really is. It's just stunning. And as long as we're on the subject of Interstellar, there's also first time on 4K Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
Which still has a wonderful following, and I am so proud because my friend Dave Howard was the basically creator of Galaxy Quest, and I still remember when Dave Howard pitched me the original idea. It was originally called Captain Starshine. And I was talking to Dave at a friend's party in Topanga, and Dave is trained as a playwright, and he said, "Yeah, I've got this spec that I'm shopping around. It's called Captain Starshine. It's kind of like a spoof of Shatner and Spock and that whole thing." And he pitched it to me, and I thought, that's the funniest damn thing I've ever heard in my life. I said, "You got to be able to sell that." Next thing you know, DreamWorks, and there's a whole lot of drama and whatnot, but it winds up becoming Galaxy Quest, and there it is. And it's weird when you are privy to the evolution of something like that so many years before, and you see it come to fruition. And was it exactly the way that he pitched it to me? No, but it close enough.
Yep, and all of the elements that came together to make, I think it was Dean Parasot.
Dean Parasot, yeah.
But Tim Allen, Sigourney, and Alan, all just sort of wonderful, perfect elements coming together to make the Tony Shalhoub, and it's just so great.
So let me roll through some of these others so that we don't get too bogged down in time. We got Oliver Stone's Born on the 4th of July from Shout Select in 4K Ultra HD, one of the great Tom Cruise performances of all time. As Ron Kovic, part of Oliver Stone's Vietnam moment when I think it was kind of a trilogy that he did, Heaven and Earth, what came right after this. This was right after Platoon. But, has all the stuff you'd want on it. Commentary by Oliver Stone, TV spots, commentary by film critic Matt Zoller-Seitz. It's loaded. It's absolutely loaded. So a good one from Shout Select. Got
Tom Cruise's second to last time doing a serious dramatic role.
Yes,
I think the last time was Magnolia. I can't remember Tom.
Rain Man. Rain Man.
80s. That's right. That's 80s. It's something or other. Yeah. So Tom only did that about 4 times, and that was one of them.
American Movie, one of the more entertaining docs from the last few decades, is on 4K. I'm not entirely sure why. This wasn't exactly a great looking film, but it's, it has a cult following. These two guys are just absolutely weird and hilarious. And I guess, 4K suits the fans. Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles gets 4K treatment all by its own, by its lonely. Still hilarious, still beautifully made, and you know what? Some of the best screen chemistry I have ever seen between on this cast. Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder are just priceless. Harvey Korman has some of the best lines in movie history. It's just a lot of fun. This movie is just irreverent and priceless and timeless. So, love me some Blazing Saddles. We've also got the new Beetlejuice. How did you feel about this, Tim? Yeah, the new one. How did you feel about Beetlejuice?
It was terrible. It was terrible. Far too dark, in my opinion, far too dark. Much darker than the Beetlejuice movie that I remembered. But that was me.
Made a ton of money though.
Made some money,
a ton of money.
Yeah.
We're starting to get our Hitchcock films on 4K. This is one of the few that is not Universal. North by Northwest. This was, one of his rare detours away from Universal. This is a Warner Brothers library film, and I actually took my wife and daughter to go see a 70 millimeter projection of this at the Aero Theater in Santa Monica a few months ago. And another family, one of my daughter's friends, and her family came along as well. And everybody, it was amazing to see these 11-year-old girls experience a Hitchcock action thriller for the first time. It was, they got it. They just got it. They got it. It was good. It was nice to see it work. One of Cary Grant's most memorable roles. James Mason is great. A young Martin Landau, speaking of Space 1999, is terrific as well. One of the Mistaken Man movies in Hitchcock's body of work. Really, really great. And, of course, that all-time classic finale on the great studio mock-up of Mount Rushmore. Trap. Tim, did you see Trap?
That's
the M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night.
With Josh Hartnett resurfacing after.
I think I missed Trap that week.
I love to rip on M. Night Shyamalan and the horrible B level that his career has descended to, but I'll tell you something. This is a little bit of a return to form. He's not just phoning it in here. It's nice to see that Josh Hartnett has emerged from that cave in Argentina that he's been hiding in for the last 20 years. He's kind of still got it. He's still, got the matinee idol looks. I don't know where he's been, but this is a little bit of it borrows a little bit from Targets, the Bogdanovich film. It all, it's about a father and a daughter at a concert event. And it's a very intelligent way of analyzing our current moment that we're having with public events post-COVID, public events in what happened in Las Vegas those years ago with the shooter, where do we still have we descended so far into our internet lives that we don't actually want to have public lives anymore? Are we afraid? And if so, is it about convenience or is it about fear? There's all those ideas are treated here. And again, it's not A-list Shyamalan, but it feels like he's working a little harder than he has in quite some time. So, it might be worth an exploration. Trap on 4K from M. Night Shyamalan.
Thoughtful.
Anything else here in the 4Ks you want to jump into?
Let's see. Oh, look, we're reaching all the way back to Addams Family Values.
Yeah.
Which is, what was that? The second in the
it was
in the cinematic Addams Family movies, if I'm not mistaken. Addams. That's right. So I remember thoroughly enjoying this film. The first film was a big hit.
Yeah.
But I remember thoroughly enjoying this film. I do not remember whether or not it was as popular as the first film.
It was nearly as popular. It was nearly as popular, but it was nice. You know what? They did such a good job of casting the first one that they almost had to bring everybody back just to let us kind of soak in some more of the casting, because that it's a lot of people, and I almost wanted I could have done with the third one.
Yeah.
I could have done with a third, maybe even a fourth.
We lost Raul Julia somewhere along the line there. Raul played Gomez. And he was just an exquisite Gomez. Now we do, though, have Wednesday, whatever that is, a Netflix or Paramount series, whatever it is. So the sort of Chuck Addams sort of concept there seems to linger on over the years. Either way.
Yeah, well, this is first time on 4K. My only regret with this movie, and of course it has the digital thing, the digital code included. My only regret with this is that Christopher Lloyd played Uncle Fester, because that part was originally supposed to go to John Lovitz, and there's still a part of me that feels like John Lovitz was the better choice.
He would have got. I can see you on that one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of slasher movies for the holidays, we also have Thanksgiving. Why do they always use an axe in the ads? This is an axe that is just clobbered down into a turkey for Thanksgiving. Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. It's 4K. It's coming out now. I'm not quite sure why, but it's kind of a standard Eli Roth slasher thing, and it's got a lot of extras on here, including the featurette that is so aptly titled "Carve Diem." Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh my.
Anyway, but this will play on your movie. This will go into your Movies Anywhere digital locker because it's Sony. I don't know why Paramount refuses to get on board. Maybe once they're once the ownership change takes place, maybe Paramount will finally join the Movies Anywhere consortium. Collector's edition in 4K of Drag Me to Hell.
Oh yeah,
Sam Raimi basically saying, I'm done with the superhero stuff. I want to make a horror film again. Enough with the Spider-Man. Let's just make what I'm comfortable making. This movie is hysterical. Yeah. It's scary. It's a little scary, but man, is it funny. That scene fighting the crazy rabbit old lady in the car
is outstanding.
Is outstanding filmmaking. It is just absolutely outstanding. No, check this movie out. It's a lot of fun. This is just classic Sam Raimi, throwing caution to the wind. 2-disc set. Cannot get better. Lots of interviews in here. Alison Lohman and Ivan Raimi, and the Peter Deming, the cinematographer, Christopher Young, the composer. Everybody shows up on this thing. Everybody's having a good time. Drag Me to Hell. The 4:30 movie. Did you see the 4:30 movie? I had to review this for Film Week.
I do not remember the 4:30 movie. No, sir.
So the 4:30 movie, now on 4K, but not so on 4K that they can't put a VHS logo on the cover of this thing and a Please Be Kind rewind sticker just to be dorky. Like, this is basically what's going on. Kevin Smith went out a couple of years ago and saw Licorice Pizza, the Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and thought to himself, well, hell, I grew up with all that stuff. It's like my childhood, too. I could make this movie. No, you can't. But it didn't stop him from trying. So Kevin Smith went and basically made his version of Licorice Pizza, which has its moments. I will say, these nerdy kids going to see movies, trying to, con the movie theater. Ken Jeong is the guy who owns the movie theater. He keeps kicking one of them out, and then they sneak back in, and there's a romance. None of it quite works. But it is Kevin Smith's first attempt at making a Licorice Pizza type nostalgic reminiscence about his movie-going upbringing, his movie-going teen years.
Oh, yeah.
It is a little charming. It's a lot amateurish. It's also a lot not very coherent. But I guess in the overall Kevin Smith body of work, it's you know what? It's better than Clerks.
It fits in.
Yeah, it fits.
Better production value.
It just needs more production value. They all do.
All Kevin Smith movies need more production value. Even at the top of his career, with Ben Affleck and the Lambs, and Kevin and Matt Damon roaming around, his movies still needed more production value. Which what are you gonna do?
Well, so as far as gift sets, 4K gift sets, let me tell you some nice ones we got here. House of the Dragon, the complete second season. Comes with 8 character cards. This is a nice little set if you are keeping up with that, the ongoing prequel saga of Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon, Season 2. Not a bad little gift consideration. We also have a couple of steelbook releases, brand new 4K steelbook releases of from Shout Factory of Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. For some reason, both of those things, those were the two, Henson company productions, and they every time one of them gets released, the other one gets released. It's like they're joined at the hip. Jim Henson's Labyrinth and Jim Henson's Dark Crystal. Labyrinth, not such a great movie, in my opinion. I think Jennifer Connelly is wonderful. David Bowie looks ridiculous with the wig. Lots of extras on here. Pretty nice steelbook. But ultimately, Dark Crystal is the movie that lingers for me. It was a first of its kind and remains an absolutely wonderful state-of-the-art milestone in cinematic puppeteering. Yeah, I Oswald Morris, the legendary cinematographer, does a great job. Fantastic score from Trevor Jones. I just think this is a great movie. I think this is a really, really great movie. Directed by Jim Henson and Frank Oz.
Frank doesn't get enough credit for co-directing and directing with Jim.
No,
that film.
That he does not, and maybe someday. And then we also have Bill and Ted's Most Triumphant Trilogy on 4K. Look, what can I tell you? It's all three Bill and Ted movies, which are basically the same. The jokes are one note. I don't particularly care for these movies, but man, a lot of people love these movies. So knock yourselves out. They are out there, courtesy of Shout Factory. Finally, all three Bill and Ted movies on 4K in a single box set for Christmas. That'll make somebody happy.
So Excellent Adventure, which is 89 or 90.
Yeah.
Right? Bogus Journey, I think, was right after that. Within a year or two. And then they wait, 10, 15, 20 years or something like that?
Something like that, yeah, for Bill and Ted's Face the Music.
Face the Music movie?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's waiting a while to get back in the well there, bud.
Yeah, yes it is. The Crow, the new Crow, man, that tanked, but it's out on 4K.
That was
Tim, how'd you feel about the new Crow? Did we need it?
Actually, no, we didn't need it. But I will say this about it: FKA Twigs, who played the sort of female version of the whole thing that happens in the Crow, they get killed and all this kind of. She was quite strong in this movie. She's a rapper, performer. She was quite strong in this movie. But the movie itself was basically sort of a John Wickian sort of conception of the Crow story, so it becomes this gun movie. I don't know if you remember that first Crow movie. That first Crow movie was really kind of cool. It had all these sort of B characters that were really wicked,
Yeah.
I don't know, but this is just like it's John Wick meets the Crow. and we have all these big gun sequences, but I did love FKA Twigs. She was really sexy in this movie.
Did we need the new Twisters? Speaking of movies that came long after the original.
Yeah, no, but it was required, as this was the spring, summer of Glenn Powell. Yeah. So any and everything that Mr. Powell did, we were required to watch. And the thing about that new Twisters movie, I think that first Twisters movie had our boy Bill Paxton and who was it? Helen Hunt.
Yes.
Helen Hunt. And they were really great in that movie. I mean, they brought this sort of really, again, I'm going to use that word again, that sense of gravitas. You bought it. And Jean de Bont's film, you bought it. In this film, I'm looking at these kids. I'm like, shouldn't you kids be at home? Does your mom know you're running around out here? I didn't. It's Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. I bought that they were who they portended to be in that movie. Here, I just felt like this is a bunch of kids, and somebody should call their parents and tell them they're out here chasing Twisters. But the special effects, which for that first Twister movie were really astounding. I don't know. Yeah. Here, not the same. It just doesn't report the same.
Well, here are a bunch of films that all have some degree of nostalgia to them. They're all now on 4K. We're going to start with, I'm going to go right through them. The Hitcher, Intern, Tag, The Terminator, Pulp Fiction, and Rock and Roll High School.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with Rock and Roll High School 45th Anniversary Edition. That's kind of a big deal. And I think this film by Alan Arkish, really his, 1979, right kind of at the tail end of the 70s, just looping into the 80s, introduces a lot of people to the Ramones. One of those movies that just sort of, one of those youth culture movies that I think stitches the decades together. Does it hold up? Yeah, I don't know that it held up at the time, but it definitely is a unique film. It was co-written by Joe Dante. A lot of people may not realize that. I feel like it has more to say now than it did at the time. So I do have some grudging appreciation for what it was doing then, which I don't think I appreciated in previous times. Lots of extras. So Rock and Roll High School, The Terminator on 4K. I don't know what took so long, but here it is. Not enough by way of special features, some deleted scenes and some featurettes. Not nearly enough. Needs a lot more. Jim Cameron, go give us an audio commentary, please. You really got to step it up for that one. But that being said, looks really good. It's a great 4K transfer. Terrific. Absolutely terrific. Has a digital movie code on it. So that means that you can get it on the Vudu or the Fandango or your Apple platforms. The Hitcher. Boy, Rutger Hauer is the Hitcher. I've gone back and forth on this.
That was a chilling movie. Just a chilling movie. What is that, about 86 or so?
Yeah.
C. Thomas Howell. Just an absolutely chilling movie.
I've gone back and forth on whether or not the reason this movie disturbs me has more to do with the movie or me.
How so?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I want to hate this movie, but at the same time, it's just too disturbing for me to fully dismiss it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It is. It's a creepy movie. It's a creepy movie. I mean, nobody really hitchhikes anymore or picks up hitchhikers, but it's really, really well shot. I think that might be part of it. It's just so well executed. The Intern. Let's talk about The Intern for a second with the Nancy Meyers film with Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. This isn't that old, actually. I mean, this is about 2015. I guess it is 9 years old. This is sort of the last time, even though it's a Nancy Meyers film and we might want to dismiss it. This was sort of the last time that I felt that Robert De Niro was stretching. He was trying to do something that was outside his comfort zone.
Yeah,
and
he wasn't playing that guy.
He wasn't playing that guy, exactly. He wasn't playing that guy. And I appreciated that. There's a scene in this film which I thought was particularly sweet where all the other guys at the job, De Niro plays an old guy who goes back to work and, is working in an office as an intern. And it's a generational comedy. It's meant to be poignant about aging and all of the things that go along with aging and the differences in generations. And there's a scene where these guys at the office, they're talking to De Niro. These guys are all sitting there with scruff and they're messy and they're wearing hoodies and De Niro's there wearing his coat and tie and he's cleanly shaved and they're saying to him, they're like, "Oh, so you shave every day?" And he nods. He goes, "Yeah."
So like you said, 2015. So coming up on 10 years ago, a decade ago. So a decade ago, I was in my mid 50s and I was watching this movie and I was thinking to myself, I don't know. De Niro seems to be making a whole lot of sense to me. What's you know what I mean? So now, 10 years later, I watched this movie, and I'm like, this should be mandatory watching for people who go to work at any company at all, anywhere. Because not for nothing, that's my generation. That's the way I used to go to work. I used to wear a suit and tie back in the day.
Yeah.
So anyway, very, very funny. Funny. Don't know if these jokes play today. Don't know if they only a decade later. Everybody's been walking around in their hoodies for a decade now. Facebook boy and what all. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Well, we talked about Quincy Jones earlier, and Quincy's daughter Rashida is still with us. Very talented actress, writer, and director. Rashida is a hyphenate, just like her dad. A lot of those good genes got passed down, and she is one of the voices of sanity in Tag, which was only made in 2018, but this is actually based on a real story. Now, it's highly fictionalized, but there were and are these guys who have been playing tag since they were in first grade. and the game is ongoing, and it interferes with all of their adult lives. And boy, does this have some funny stuff in it. Great cast is part of what makes this thing work. Jeremy Renner, along with John Hamm and Leslie Bibb and Hannibal Buress and Isla Fisher and Jake Johnson, Ed Helms. It's a funny bunch of guys, and they're all playing tag way beyond what should be tolerated in real life. But there's some funny stuff in this movie. I'll just say that. Some funny stuff. So that's on 4K if you want to knock yourself out. Getting down here on the nostalgia and Pulp Fiction. It's 30th. That's painful, man. 30th anniversary limited edition. Wow, I cannot believe it's been 30 years since I was at the Cannes Film Festival and this thing won. I was there, man. I was there when this won the Cannes Film Festival, and no one expected it to. Clint Eastwood announced it. It was a big old surprise because everyone thought Kieslowski was going to get it for Red, and nope, it didn't happen. Pulp Fiction won. And a French lady in the audience screamed and swore up and down, and Tarantino flipped her off from the microphone when he collected the award. It was great. Anyway, you know what? This has so many just pointless goodies in it, little collectible postcards and stickers and little, I mean, truly, there's junk in here you were never, ever going to use at all. But, I mean, seriously, like the pop-up slip cover, it's a little pop-up thing of Uma Thurman and Travolta doing the dance. It's like out of a pop-up book. Why would you, like, seriously, why? That's so extreme. Anyway, here's the point. Pulp Fiction in 4K is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's a beautifully shot film. Sam Jackson and Travolta just in 4K. That whole deal is great. Tim Roth. I mean, all of them. They're just terrific. Bruce Willis. It's really fun to watch this again. Yeah. Fun to watch again. Let's see. We got a few other things here in 4K. Watchmen Chapter 2. Did you see that by chance?
Is this
the animated? The animated.
Oh, the animated. No, I do not know that one. No.
Yeah, no, this is Chapter 2, the animated Watchmen, which I don't think is as interesting as the live action stuff that they were doing on HBO. But it is more faithful, I guess, to the comic, and it comes with a few extras and whatnot. If you didn't see Chapter 1, I wouldn't get into it. It's really trying to be very faithful to the comic, so it really is just completing the saga as the comics outlined it. Killer's Game, which I only caught up on. This didn't do quite so well. Dave Bautista and Sophia Boutella and Ben Kingsley shows up in this thing as well. I don't know. What did I miss with this? Why was this? Feels like this should have been a bigger deal. It's one of those assassin movies, kind of one of those post John Wick assassin movies, trying to kind of get in on the same game. Terry Crews is in it as well. Feels like it should have done better.
Yeah, look, you got this. It's a fairly well, I was going to say cliched, but well-worn sort of notion. A hitman, a top-notch hitman. He gets diagnosed with an illness, a terminal illness, and he decides to take himself out. One of those kind of things. Not for nothing. I'm almost sure that was an episode of Get Smart. It's one. But in the context of this particularly bloody movie, that's pretty funny. But mostly just action, blood, and guts.
Yeah.
It can wear thin pretty soon. I don't know if you can get a whole movie out of that.
Well, and then we got to wrap up with a few other 4Ks here that a little bit more specialized. George Romero's Land of the Dead Collector's Edition on 4K from Shout Factory, Scream Factory. Yeah. So that one, that's not bad. John Leguizamo and Ozzy Argento and Dennis Hopper all show up in this as well. So that's kind of on the tail end of the of Romero's saga. The Block Island Sound by the McManus brothers on 4K unexpectedly. This is an interesting new horror movie. These are the guys who created Cobra Kai, and this is this is rural horror or even suburban horror, you could almost say. It all kind of takes place in a shoreline area around this island known as Block Island. where animals are dying and just crazy things are happening. And, what is at the root of all of this? And, let's get to the root of the history of this place. It's a haunted house movie, except the haunted house in this case is an island.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're in the, still emphasizing horror for Christmas, gosh, there's a lot of horror coming out. Isn't it true? It's like just so much of it. There's a collector's edition of Hush, also from Shout Factory and Scream Factory on 4K. This also is kind of rural horror, but this is from Mike Flanagan, who previously did Dr. Sleep, if you're familiar with that. And this is a woman who goes into the woods and she's deaf. She goes into the woods to have a more peaceful life. And next thing you know, you got some Michael Myers guy who's stalking her. It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
It really is. It's very effective to a horrible degree. I hate Luca Guadagnino's movies. I just want to say that in advance. I really do.
Review one this past week.
I'm so sick of him.
Which one? What did I do? Queer. The adaptation of the William S. Burroughs. Blah blah blah.
Not gonna watch it.
Yeah, I did, and I can recommend that you don't.
I just
so therefore
I'm so over him anyway.
And for a lot of different reasons, not just Luca. Yeah. I'm with you on Luca. He has these sort of concepts, but he always has to take these sort of interesting concepts, and he finds the most prosaic way to frame these things. I'm like, bruh, And I get it. You're a gay guy coming at this from a particular perspective. That I have no problem with, no issues with whatsoever. But even within that context, you pick the most askew angle to approach this stuff on, and you just sort of choose these things that I just don't buy. That's what it really comes down to with Lucas movies. Challengers was another one that he had this year. Challengers, in this, and at the end of the day, what always happens in one of Lucas movies is this. A gigantic moment that is wholly and completely not believable. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. That wouldn't happen. You just made that up. And it happens every single time. And
well, in the case of the 4K of Bones and All, which is the movie I'm holding here right now, that pretty much applies to the whole movie.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
Look, I love Taylor Russell. You know that. You and I both adore Taylor Russell.
Yes.
Cannot get enough of that girl. I even tolerate Timothée Chalamet if he's in the right thing, right? Like Dune, I'm all in. I'm all in. But Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet as young lovers on the run who are also happen to be cannibals because they're born with like a cannibal gene and they got to start killing people and eating people. I don't really want to see that.
Yeah.
No.
And I do not give a damn what it's a metaphor for. Everybody, they say, oh, well, it's a metaphor. I don't care.
No,
I don't care. I don't care what it's a metaphor for. It doesn't matter to me at all. It's just gross. Leave me alone.
And so lastly on that count, for some reason, and I guess I trust them, but for some reason, we have an Ultra HD, a 4K Ultra HD of Zizek's Road, John Penny's 2006 thriller starring Katherine Heigl and Tom Sizemore and Leo Grillo. I don't really understand that. I mean, there's a lot of these kinds of movies, right? Where crazy stuff happens in the desert. It's like crazy stuff happens in the woods. Crazy stuff. It's using the environment for as a character in an otherwise well-intentioned thriller. Anyway, this all takes place in the Mojave Desert, right off of Interstate 15, and it's people going nuts in the desert and chasing each other around and having hallucinations. And okay. The thing is that this movie was released. Here's what makes this movie famous. This movie is famous because its entire theatrical run. You know how much money it grossed? You know how much money this made in its theatrical run?
2006 or so, right?
$30.
$30?
$30. Not 30 million, not 30,000. $30.
So in
in theatrical release.
In 2006, that's 3 tickets.
Yes.
Three $12 tickets, 4 $12 tickets, something like that.
Yes. It opened in one theater. And it was officially the lowest grossing movie in American theatrical release history until 2011, when the movie, aptly titled The Worst Movie Ever, made $11. So I don't understand who out there is thinking, oh my gosh, Zizek's Road, we got to put this out on 4K. What?
There's the documentary. Is that doc a part of that release? Because there's a doc about the making of. I'm wondering if they stuck that on there. That's not that's all about stuff. Grab the doc too.
Anyway,
everything. Yeah.
So there. Yeah, there it is. Let's knock through some criterion here, because then we can dovetail into the boxed sets. So I'm going to go through just some of these really fast, because we're trying to focus on the really, really key stuff, but you should know about what's out here. Produced by Val Lewton is a great 4K criterion with a couple of great Val Lewton productions on it. One of them directed by Jacques Tourneur. That's I Walked with a Zombie. And the other one is The Seventh Victim, directed by the great Mark Robson. Val Lewton, basically a genre producer, but both of these have really, really classic followings. And there are a lot of extras here, as you would expect. So that's a couple of fun films for the season. Still more horror for the holiday season. Don't know what that's doing. Also a 4K of Demon Pond by Masahiro Shinoda. This is a classic Japanese new wave film from 1979, kind of the tail end. Still technically Japanese new wave, even though that's mostly the 1960s. But Shinoda is very much a figure of that movement, and this is basically a very haunting kabuki-inspired tale that is really one of the great Japanese movies, I'd say, of the last 50, 60 years. It's pretty great. I'm not a Harmony Korine fan, but Gummo is out on 4K. Tim, tell me why I should care about this horrible movie.
Well, Harmony, the thing that Harmony did is he made some interesting movies with not much of anything, and sometimes that'll sort of get you there. What was that, about 97 or so that Gummo was came out?
Yeah,
that was very interesting.
Good recollection, 1997, absolutely.
Like that. Yeah, yes, it's sort of like set it's just these people living these ridiculously sort of nihilistic lives. It was of interest to folks in the early 70s. Him and Larry Clark and a few other people got away with making these movies. They're for a little while. They kind of went away. 13 was another one. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Nuri Bilge Ceylan, the Turkish filmmaker who makes very, very long meditative movies that most people here don't see. I'm hoping that About Dry Grasses, which is out from the Janus Contemporaries line of Criterion, will get a little bit of awards attention this weekend. I'm not holding my breath, however. This was released in 2023, but I think it qualifies for it's made in 23, but I think it still qualifies this year. I believe it's on our list. So, but it was, in Cannes last year. It won Best Actress. It's a really terrific film. So it was officially Turkey's entry for last year's Academy Awards, but I think it qualifies for every other category this year. I am hoping people pay some attention to it. I liked it. I don't know if you saw it, but I really like it a lot.
I did not see that one. No,
it's a really good film. Let's get into some juicy stuff here. Funny Girl is out on 4K. Yay! Finally. Yay, Barbara. I just love this movie. Ray and I have a disagreement over this. Ray hates this film. I think this is William Wyler at his best. Omar Sharif is wonderful. Barbara, in her first big role, she won Best Actress and tied with Katharine Hepburn across the generations. Wonderful, big, beautiful, bold musical numbers, and it's colorful and it's exuberant, and I just love this movie. I really do. Obviously the story of Fanny Brice. It's been in revival on Broadway for a little over a year now, I think, and you know what? It's great. It's just absolutely great. But when Barbra Streisand, at the beginning of this thing, you see her entirely from behind, that great opening shot, and she looks in the mirror, and she says, "Hello, gorgeous." Oh, my gosh. Scrape me off the floor. I love it. I love it so much.
There's a joke, and I think it's on the IMDb page about somebody asking William Wyler about working with Streisand and whether or not it was difficult, and he said something like, no, considering it was the first film she ever directed.
Oh,
that's sharp.
What a great line. What a great line. Well, there's a wonderful documentary here called directed by William Wyler, which, pays apt tribute to the man who still to this day has more Academy Award nominations, I think, than any other director in history. It's a tough act. I think 11 times he was nominated. Paul Muni in the original Scarface with Boris Karloff and George Raft, also in 4K, produced by Howard Hughes, directed by Howard Hawks, the Howards. This, you know what? I mean, look, I love me some Al Pacino and various other incarnations of this story, but it's pretty great. The original is really, really great because it just came right out of that gangster moment in 1932. And there's a great conversation on here with Megan Abbott and Bill Hader, which is totally unexpected and absolutely wonderful. This includes the censored alternate ending of the film, which I had never seen before, which is fascinating. Might even be better, but still, it's just really, really intriguing. And you know what? I thought this was great. It's nice to have 4K of Scarface, the original. Paper Moon, man. Peter Bogdanovich, 4K. Wow. Ryan O'Neal and Tatum O'Neal together. I'd forgotten how good this movie was.
Yeah, early 70s, 73 or so.
73, yeah.
Movie, black and white, absolutely gorgeous sort of film. You can't make these kind of films today.
No.
Just sort of roams around and has these sort of like dramatic sequences. All those sequences when he's fighting with her, trying to get her to get in the car and stuff like that. I mean, that was the stuff of cinema.
It was
today. I don't know. Yeah,
shot by Laszlo Kovacs, one of the best things he's ever shot. Yeah, beautiful. I mean, beautiful black and white. And what's really great on here, in particular, is a bits from a 1973 Tonight Show episode with Johnny Carson, where Bogdanovich and Ryan and Tatum were all together on the show. Absolutely wonderful moment. Makes you realize how far we've drifted from great late night television. But anyway, yeah. And Madeline Kahn's in this too. I mean, just the whole Dust Bowl recreation is as good as it gets. Really a beautiful movie. G.W. Pabst and Louise Brooks made Pandora's Box in 1929. Very, very. I mean, this is early, kind of late stage silent, but early stage of what Pabst and a lot of the German expressionism veterans would be doing in Hollywood. What the influence that they would spread. Really, really, utterly fascinating film. Tremendous musical score here too. This is just kind of an eerie, haunting movie. Louise Brooks' performance is fantastic. And everything changes right after that. This is pre-code. This is very, very German. Story of a showgirl, and who just with sexual energy that just pours off the screen because it's silent, and because the sexuality of this film is something you become very aware of because it is silent. We've kind of lost that with the sound era. I think the sound kind of erases a lot of stuff. But anyway. We also got a 4K of The Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro's Best Picture winner from 2017. I think it's nice that that gets a Criterion release. Does this film hold up, do you think?
I was not as big a fan of that film then as everybody else was. I thought it was intriguing. Certainly, it fit within his canon. But I wonder. I haven't seen it in a long time, probably since 2017, when that was a bit of a surprise win for me.
Yeah, it was kind of for me too. But I think everybody loves the big guy. Everybody loves Del Toro, and Sally Hawkins really is tremendous in it. So nice 4K treatment from Criterion. The last two standalone Criterions here, Japanese classics both. Totally different films. Ishiro Honda's Godzilla in 4K and Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai in 4K. Just to understand how rich the post-war environment for Japanese cinema became. Japan was a devastated nation in 1945. And 9 years later, in the same year, 1954, you get Seven Samurai and Godzilla, otherwise known as Gojira. That is an amazing recovery by any means for these two films to come out of that film industry 9 years after the two atomic bombs. So just want to underline that for everybody. More extras here than you can possibly consume in a lifetime. Really, it's just tons. The audio commentary on Godzilla. There's they also include Godzilla King of the Monsters on here, by the way. But which is the American version that was done 2 years later. So you get the original film and the Americanized version.
Perry, I was getting ready to say Perry Mason.
Terry Morse.
Yeah. Raymond Burr. With
Raymond Burr, exactly.
Raymond
that was
Burr.
all, and that was all Terry Morse who reworked all that.
Who
stuff.
reworked it all? Yes. Okay.
Anyway,
yes.
David Collette, who's a wonderful historian. We've worked with him in the past. He used to run a couple of different DV companies. Does great commentary for both of those films. That's really terrific. But you also get Michael Jeck weighing in with a lot of other people on Seven Samurai, which is just had a re-release as well in theaters. Just amazing. Both of these films, just stupendous and absolutely superb. So cannot go wrong with either of them. I think that does it for the Criterions. Now we get into the Big Mama.
Oh.
So Criterion is having its 40th anniversary, Tim.
Oh, wow.
And for people who really, really can't get enough of their Criterion, they have released CC40, which is Criterion Collection 40, a boxed set with 49 Blu-rays and 40 films. It is amazing. This is a 40-film celebration of Criterion's 40th anniversary, and these are not, I'll just give you some of the films. 8.5, Tokyo Story, All That Jazz, Bicycle Thieves, Repo Man, Naked, Jules and Jim, Being There, Weekend, Yee Yee, Night of the Hunter, Pickpocket, Sweet Smell of Success, On the Waterfront, Do the Right Thing, Ratcatcher, Sunday Bloody Sunday, Mirror, Barry Lyndon, Safe, Seconds by Frankenheimer, His Girl Friday, Mishima, Y Tu Mamá También, My Own Private Idaho, Love and Basketball, yay Gina, Night of the Living Dead, Ace in the Hole, Three Women, The Red Shoes, Down by Law, La Ciénaga, Wanda, House, Sullivan's Travels, The Battle of Algiers, A Woman Under the Influence, Cléo from 5 to 7, Ingmar Bergman's Persona, and In the Mood for Love. That is unreal.
I look at them. I'm looking for some sort of a pattern, some sort of a reason for that. For those 40, I was looking for maybe some sort of a theme or something like that. I don't know that I see one. I mean, they're all extraordinary, but I don't know that I see a theme per se, other than just 40 fantastic films.
Yeah, 40 fantastic films, all of them digitally restored. There is no theme. It's just to make people happy.
Yeah.
This thing is a brick. You could kill a person by dropping this on their head. I'm saying that. Don't do that. Don't by any means do that. But yeah, it is an absolutely wonderful collection. Boy, I mean, this is if you don't already have all these films, then you want to get this. But if you already have all the films, save the money. Make a donation to a shelter or something like that. But anyway, now that we're into the big box sets, boy, we got some other really big box sets. We have in the past talked about the Shawscope films. We've talked about the Shawscope box sets for all the great Shaw Brothers movies from in their amazing widescreen from the 1960s and 70s. We got another one, Volume 3. It's amazing, and it includes The One-Armed Swordsman. I'm just saying, very, very happy that Jimmy Wang Yu and The One-Armed Swordsman are making it onto a set finally. So this is just sensational. This is from Arrow, and they have 10 discs, 10 discs, but 10 discs, but the 10th one is just a CD with music. So it's nine discs of movies. And they got some great ones in here. Buddha's Palm, Bastard Swordsman, 14 Amazons is a total classic. Obviously, The One-Armed Swordsman and Return of the One-Armed Swordsman and The New One-Armed Swordsman are all on here. Confessions of a Chinese Courtesan, Sentimental Swordsman, The Avenging Eagle, The Magic Blade, and Clans of Intrigue, Jade Tiger. It's a lot of great stuff. If you are a fan of these films, as I am, this is a great Christmas. I'm telling you. Or Hanukkah or whatever else, but it's great. You gotta get all these. And the Swan Princess, the Royal Collection. You know how many Swan Princess movies there are, Tim?
I do not. I can
take a wild stab. Take just a wild stab.
I'm gonna go with 14.
Ooh, close.
Really?
12.
12. Okay. I knew 20 would be too many, but 10 would not be enough.
Yeah, 12. I had no idea. And I had no idea. 12 movies. All the complete collection on DVD, along with a limited edition musical jewelry box, is part of the Swan Princess, the Royal Collection. Boy, they have Rich, who is a former Disney animator who formed his own company and started making these, and has basically just built a company off of making nothing but these movies. You know what? The music box is not bad. It's gimmicky. But let me tell you something. I have a very, very fond recollection of the Swan Princess because I was at the Cannes Film Festival in 1993 when the Swan Princess threw the mother of all parties. There's a castle just outside of Cannes called La Napoule, the Castle of La Napoule. And that's where every year they used to have the Moving Pictures magazine would throw a big party there. And, there's I had a lot of fun times there. They're the Moving Pictures parties. I saw, the Leningrad Cowboys performed there one year. Saw an absolutely hysterical drag show by Varla Jean Merman another year, who had starred in the movie Francesca Page. Hysterical. Got a little kiss from Varla Jean, sporting some afternoon shadow backstage after that. It was quite amusing. A lot of fun times. But what they did in '93, the rich people for Swan Princess was amazing. They threw a classic banquet with some of the greatest food you have ever eaten. You walked in, they seated you. They had, it was like a Downton Abbey thing, right? They were seating you with like servants and the hors d'oeuvres and everything, and it's just like you were taken care of. And then afterwards, everyone went out on the patio for a fireworks show. It was spectacular. And there was a little presentation on the movie, of course, in the middle of it all. But it was really, really Class A stuff. It was what you would have expected Disney to do once upon a time. It was amazing. And I brought all my friends at the festival. I got all my Swedish and Canadian friends to join in, and they still talk about it to this day. So that was Swan Princess. The sequels, not so much, but that original film really had something special going. Yeah,
it's one of those ones that had to sort of linger about and come to people. It didn't make any money when it was released.
No.
But it lingered, as opposed to some of those Disney films, like you mentioned. The thing about those movies, they just made a crap load of money. Lion King came out that year, too, and just made a crap load of money. The Swan Princess is every bit as engaging a film, but it did not have the Lion King Disney apparatus behind it.
That's it.
But nevertheless, it's based on a classic Swan Lake, and to check out, and it has sort of grown over the years and into something very, very interesting. Regina Bell and Jeffrey Osborne sang that beautiful theme song. That year. It was just really, really great.
And then we have an unbelievably ridiculous anime box set, Food Wars: The Fifth Plate limited edition box set, which is really not to be believed. It's just enormous. It doesn't weigh as much as the Criterion bit, but it's got it's got so much stuff in it. Like this. Oh, I can't even get into it. It's all the anime stuff that all collectible stickers and little bamboo box and all this other stuff in it. It's really out of control. It's like little wooden bamboo. What do you call them? Like wood pressings. Yeah, they're like coasters, but you're not going to put anything on these things. What do you call when you have engraved wood? The old school, like hundreds of years ago, when they'd engrave in wood, and you can use that
with the little burning. They would burn into it.
It's kind of a classic Japanese art form. Anyway, it's got some stuff like that. It's out of control. It's unhinged. If you're a Food Wars fan, you will just absolutely eat it all up, so to speak. Anyway, sorry, had to do that. Let's wrap everything up with some. Oh, hold on. Let's wrap everything up with some TV.
All right,
because we got a ton of TV box sets here, and that seems to be where everybody's attention goes. at holiday time. The Whitest Kids You Know was a late arrival here for us. The complete series of The Whitest Kids You Know. I can't exactly say I get this show, but it ran for 5 seasons, 2007 to 2011. Kind of a one of the first alternative comedy shows of its. It's a little bit like, it's, I don't know, it's a sketch show.
Very kids in the hall-y, more kids in the hall than certainly Saturday Night Live or anything like that. These sort of independent out in sort of world sketches, which it's okay. Very kids in the hall. Very upright citizens brigade.
There we go.
Lives in that space.
We also have the Toxic Crusaders, the series. Not much of a series, I gotta say. This is the animated Saturday morning cartoon version of the Toxic Crusader and all of his friends. A little bit weird, but Lloyd Kaufman, it's kind of standard. It's par for the course for Lloyd to do something totally unhinged like this. I wouldn't show this to children.
No, but a cartoon.
But for adults who've had maybe too much to drink, sure, why not? We've got The West Wing, the complete series on Blu-ray. I wonder if this show is this show, like, given where we are and how much the real West Wing has become more chaotic and fascinating and weird and dramatic in our lives just in the last decade than the West Wing on this show. Because this show, when this show aired, there wasn't a whole lot of drama going on in the real West Wing. Now, is truth stranger than fiction?
Oh, it's far and away, and not just in terms of which direction you want it to go. Not to mention, in the interceding years, we had that really very funny, but also still stranger than fiction, Julia Louis-Dreyfus show where she played the vice president, or where Veep.
Right.
So all, it's funny. Yeah. All of these, be it drama or comedy or whatever, no. Nothing that you can come up with will be more dramatic or stranger than something that's actually happening.
And then we've also got kind of So Help Me Todd, the complete series, which I had never seen originally. Marcia Gay Harden, I've seen on occasion in town. Her kids used to play, like when my daughter was at the park starting to learn soccer, her kids would be there, like playing basketball, stuff like that. So I'd see her around once in a while. Haven't done for a while, but love her as an actress. And this is an interesting premise. She's an attorney who hires Skylar Austin as kind of the how do we put this? He's her son, and she needs him to be her detective at her law firm. Is that the best way to put it?
He's Paul Drake. He's to her Perry Mason. Only she's his mother, and so that makes for the comedy.
So follow me on this. It's basically Moonlighting meets Oedipus.
Solid. Absolutely.
Am I in the ballpark?
You're right, right. You're right there.
Yeah.
You're right there.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I wasn't, misreading this. Anyway, so deleted scenes and gag reels. Interesting show. Also, the complete series of Evil, which I have seen very, very little of, but I know people who really, really love this.
A lot of evil. Like Evil. As a matter of fact, it changed networks about mid-run. I think it went from ABC to Hulu, or which is practically the same thing, but something like that. But a very interesting show.
Kind of X-Filesy, a little bit.
A little bit X-Filesy. The Kings over there doing that. Katia Herbers, she's so sexy. She's wonderful. She plays still different, and of course Mike Coulter, who's also so sexy. He's wonderful. I can say that about both of them. And it's in a very sort of interesting show that plays around with these notions. He's a priest, she's a psychologist, and the question is whether or not the exorcisms and other sort of supernatural horror things that are going on in the show are real. Of course, he's coming at it from the perspective of the church, and she's coming at it from the perspective of the psychologist, and we play these games. It's a completely sort of cheaty show though, because all the stuff is totally and completely real. I'm not ruining this for anybody. But we play it in this particular way. So yeah, it's a really, really neat sort of show.
And then Nickelodeon gave us Are You Afraid of the Dark, the limited series 3-season collection, which is very nice. This is from 2019 to about 2023, 3 different seasons of this very, very cool spooky show that's not too spooky. It's just spooky enough for kids and a little bit educational and quite nicely done. So that's nice. The limited series 3-season collection of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then we've also got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the complete classic series collection, the original, not the last 17 different series that they have done. No, this is the original from 1987 to 1996. Ran a good long time, and it has 193 episodes, 3 hours of special features. It's fun, people. It's not violent. It's not lame and kitschy. This is the one that started it all. It actually is really fun. And I got to admit, I didn't like this at the time, but watching it now, I'm kind of into it. 23 discs. It's a fun show.
It was way out of my, I would say I was so far out of my age range, but nevertheless, looking back at this now, particularly when we consider the legacy that lay James Avery, you got a lot of great voices.
Yeah.
Playing a whole lot. Dorian Harewood played some of these characters. You got Barry Gordon and Sam Clark. It's these sort of great voices that we know, but we didn't know that we were listening to way back at the time.
We also have Walker, the complete series. Not Walker, Texas Ranger. No. This is the reboot of Walker with a guy who is not Chuck Norris, which makes it utterly not worth watching. But because he's not funny. Like, Chuck Norris is funny. He's cheesy. He's Chuck. I don't really understand why this show existed, but you know what? It ran for a bit, so I guess it had something going for it that I didn't understand.
Jared Padalecki from over on what was it, that other sci-fi show from the CW there. But the thing about Walker, Chuck was about the karate. Yeah, that's what Chuck was doing, the karate. He was bringing martial arts to Texas Ranger. Was martial arts meets Texas Ranger. This guy, he's just a Texas Ranger. And that's all great and good and everything. But that's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing at all.
No,
whatever. Okay.
No. Fear the Walking Dead, the complete collection, the AMC series here on in a really bold Blu-ray keep case, the whole 30-disc operation. I don't know if I can handle that much zombie, but I know a lot of people just cannot get enough of this saga and these shows. So knock yourselves out. 8 seasons, loads of special features, 30 discs, and it's all very, very well done. It's just it's too much for me.
Hey, look, I've been calling the death of the Walking Dead for and you know what? I'm wrong. The Walking Dead will walk on.
I hear you. It's going to go on forever. It's going to be like Law and Order. It's like Law and Order Special Zombie Unit or something. We have the complete series of King of Queens. Another one of those shows that just keeps hanging around. And you know what? Kevin James is a funny guy. He's a funny guy, man. I'm still waiting for my WKRP to come out on Blu-ray. Looking for that. Looking for it hard. Hotel Ocean View is the episode that I most want. But anyway, 207 episodes, 9 seasons. This show had a really good, solid run. Terrific cast. Funny supporting performances. Leah Remini's great. Jerry Stiller is terrific. They're all really fun. So there it is. You can now pick up King of Queens on Blu-ray, complete series from Mill Creek. And then winding down, second to last, saving the best for last, but second to last is South Park, Not Suitable for Children. Their special event, which is outrageously funny. All of this centers around the discovery that one of the teachers at South Park Elementary has an OnlyFans page. Oh my gosh, do they milk this? They milk it so beautifully. It's so funny. Anyway, we're going to give away 4 of these. So go ahead and send us an email to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com with South Park. 2 words in the subject line, and make sure it gets to us by December 10th. And we will pick a winner, and on December 11th, we will let 4 lucky people know that you're going to receive the South Park Not Suitable for Children Blu-ray.
Which you should not allow children to see, by the way.
No, by no means. But it is.
Kids see.
It really, the fact
funny.
that they can still keep making these shows as funny as they are is just amazing to me. I was talking to a friend today about that, about how Matt and Trey have sort of been Hollywood's conscience in many respects because they don't care.
No.
And everyone is so afraid that they will be targeted that everyone treats them really nicely. Because no one wants, right? So they kind of get to do what they want. It's like, oh, please don't make fun of me. Here, we'll really do right by you. And they get to do what they want. It's fantastic. I absolutely adore it.
Yeah.
Lastly, here's what we're going out on because this has been long in the coming. The entire complete series finally on Blu-ray of the sitcom that started it all and is still one of the best. I Love Lucy. People have waited for this for a very long time. I Love Lucy, the complete series, 194 episodes on Blu-ray, long overdue, along with all the great extras, the original pilot, the original opening and closing credits, photo galleries, the My Favorite Husband radio episodes that were converted into the first batch of episodes for I Love Lucy. People don't realize that. Same scripts, slightly different characters. Audio commentaries on many of these episodes, the sponsor spots, all those cigarette ads that they're afraid to show anymore. All this stuff is here. It is absolutely wonderful. And my daughter, who has memorized the episode order of this damn show, all 194 episodes, I can't even stump her anymore. She'll say to me, should we play this game? Like, name an episode of I Love Lucy. I'm like, sweetie, I can't name any episodes. like, I know what you're going to do. You want me to name an episode, and then you're going to name another episode and ask me which one came first. I don't know. I don't know what seasons they come in. So I'm thinking about doing doing that to her with Star Trek and seeing how she likes it. Freaking.
How do you like that? How's that? Oh my God! You know what I've forgotten? Is how young and pretty Lucy is in the early seasons. 1951 I think is the first season. And she's young and she's absolutely beautiful, ridiculously beautiful in that show. So particularly with these Blu-rays, she's just exquisite. She's so pretty. And it's really, really great.
It's and what I love is seeing some of the guest stars. Richard Crenna as a young goofball on that
18 years old.
So funny. And then when they move to Connecticut, there's an episode where Barbara Eden shows up. She's like 22 or 23 years old, and all the men are gaga over Barbara Eden, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's a pre-Jeannie Barbara Eden.
Unbelievable. Those are what it is.
Those are precious TV moments.
Yes.
Those are precious TV moments. So all of that here on Blu-ray. My daughter has watched this show on Pluto TV, which is not Blu-ray quality, I will add. It is, but it's better than original 1950s broadcast quality. So there is that, but I cannot wait for her to see all of this stuff on Blu-ray, which is just pristine. It's so pristine. Wonderful, wonderful mastering work from Paramount. So God bless them. They finally got around to it. The first season of I Love Lucy was released on Blu-ray something like 12 years ago. They had released it on DVD, and then they released the first season on Blu-ray, and it didn't sell well enough. And now we've been finally the whole run on Blu-ray. It's fantastic. I'm thrilled that they finally got around to it. So there it is. All right, everybody. Tim, what are we wishing everyone for the holidays and the new year?
A lovely, lovely good time. Health and safety with their family, and hey, check us out at the various different places where we are over on Eliast, and you over at Substack. And we'll make sure to keep you up with what's going on out there.
And we're going to try to have at least one, maybe two more of these little special shows before the end of the year, before we come back in January with news on our voting nightmare this week. Are you going to be there in person? Are you going to be at the show in person?
Yeah,
at the voting.
It depends on a couple of different things, but it's my intention. It's my intention.
Yeah, I will probably not be there, being as it is my wife's birthday, but it is also because our daughter, she has soccer playoffs, and if the Saturday games go well, then we will be playing on Sunday and possibly trying to make our way to Bakersfield for the big regional playoffs. Gee, how exciting! Am I rooting for the privilege of driving to Bakersfield for soccer playoffs sometime next year? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we throw a couple of those games.
That's right.
Anyway.
We love Bakersfield. We love you, Bakersfield.
We do. It's all in good fun. Listen, have a wonderful holiday season, whatever holiday you celebrate. Be good to your neighbors, love your families, and we will see you soon.
A Festivus for the rest of us.
Don't tell me not to live, just sit and putter. Life's candy and the sun's a ball of butter. Don't bring around a cloud to rain